I hate to sound alarmist, and I'm not doing it for the sake of it, but we could be approaching another financial collapse. Not just in the UK, but potentially worldwide. Why do I say that? Well, there's a few reasons I'll explore in this video, but we have record government borrowing costs, we have record credit card borrowing costs, and lots of other figures and trends that point in this direction. So I'll discuss a few of those in this video, but also how you can save a huge percentage of your money in the second half of this video, so please do stick around. So we're here on my money channel. Welcome if you aren't familiar with who I am and why I'm talking to you. I'm the Black Belt Barrister, but I have a number of channels here on YouTube now because I like to split my thoughts into different channels, so please do subscribe here for money, wealth, business, and general wealth creation tips. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. I am completely independent and I say what I feel about all of these issues. Now, let's take a look, first of all, at public sector finances, because we have May's figures, which are a little bit grim. And this is sort of really the jumping off point, what points us to look at the rest of these figures. We have record figures here. The new gap between spend and income is £17.7 billion as of May 2025, almost £1 billion more than the year before, and the second highest May in records since 1993. That is after May 2020 for obvious reasons. And looking at this table here, it's quite clear where the biggest movements in these figures have been. If you look at the change from a year ago and then look at how much it's changed since then, we have central government at over £1 billion. We have general government at £1.6 billion. Public sector at 1.5. Further down, again, totals for public sector 1.6. So you can see a lot of these figures moving significantly, resulting in a record borrowing level of £17.7 billion, the second highest May on borrowing records since records began in 1993. And so what that means in practice is that the debt interest on this borrowing is now £100 billion a year, which is, to put it in perspective, almost twice the defence budget, crediting Mel Stride for these figures here. And so with respect, many people might think, well, what does that really have to do with me? Well, what it has to do with you and me is that this is undoubtedly going to add pressure on Rachel Reeves to once again look at taxes, which I have to say, it seems to be a little bit of a trend with this government, looking at where and from whom they can achieve more tax payments and where they can achieve a lower spend, which is resulting in a little bit of an infighting backlash. And I think this morning we had one MP resign over benefit cuts. This is certainly going to cause a lot of stir within the Labour Party, and I suspect we're going to see some more Labour MPs resigning out of protest for these benefits cuts. People on independence payments who say that they simply cannot live day to day without these payments, suddenly without them, we are looking at quite a bit of trouble. But we also have UK credit card borrowing costs at a 19-year high, with an average APR of 35.7%. So quite literally, you buy something, it's going to cost you more than a third on top if you go just one full year on the interest of whatever you've bought. And as we well know, most people don't just go 1 year, they go multiple years. So you have compounding interest. So it's interest upon interest upon interest, depending on how long you have that card for, at an average rate of 35.7%. Now, there's a number of other factors that point to a potential financial crash, but also something that you can do about it if you are smart enough. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Don't go away. Now, as an aside, I've been doing some traveling around recently and had conversations and talking to people about how your machines can be hacked and compromised just by connecting to a Wi-Fi network when you're traveling around. You may be surprised at just how easy it is for some nefarious actors to hack essentially your machine or data sent to and from your machine. So allow me to give you a couple of ways that this happens and then what you can do about it. And the first one is data interception. Now, believe it or not, some unsecure Wi-Fi networks transmit data in plain text, allowing attackers to use various tools that I won't tell you about. I know what they're called, but I won't tell you about them, to sniff out and intercept these data packets so they can read sometimes your plain text passwords and login credentials and things like that. They are often done as part of a full-on man-in-the-middle attack, which I'll come to in a minute, but the unsecured Wi-Fi networks just allow some people, if so minded, to read the data that you put into websites. Now, straight away, that sounds really dangerous, does it not? But the second full-on man-in-the-middle attack is where they use manipulative software and they position some software on the network in between you and your intended destination. So what can happen is your machine thinks you're connecting to the bank, whereas really it's connecting to a bit of software in the middle and communicating with it and sending all the data to it. And therefore the software will retain your credentials. That's a man-in-the-middle attack. And finally, a combination of all these, sometimes referred to as an evil twin attack, where they use a fake Wi-Fi network that looks like, say, hotel guest or whatever. You connect to it and it forces upon you bad software, and again does all of the above, steals your credentials, tracks what you're doing, and all of those kind of things. And with all these dangers around, that is why I'm very pleased to partner with NordVPN on my money channel here. With my unique link, nordvpn.com/Daniel Shensmith, you will get 4 months extra free off the plan, along with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And I'm pleased to partner with them because it keeps you all safe, all your devices, all your family when you're out on the move. It will prevent you from connecting to malicious websites, it will prevent you from downloading malicious software, and it will ensure that all your data is safe and encrypted when you're connecting to Wi-Fi networks out on the move. And if the security wasn't quite enough to tempt you to try NordVPN just yet, take a look at the state of this Express website. I'm sorry, Express, but you got far too many adverts on there. I know, ironic, because this is kind of an advert, but watch what happens when I bring NordVPN on screen, click Quick Connect. It connects in seconds, I move it aside, and then I refresh this page here. Watch all those adverts disappear, and now I can read it very cleanly and clearly without all the interruptions of those adverts. So use my unique link, nordvpn.com/Daniel Shensmith for 4 months extra free. You've got peace of mind with a 30-day money-back guarantee, but for less than the price of a cup of coffee, it is absolutely worth it once you know that your machines are all safe. So thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. So back to some of the indicators that might spell financial doom. We have to learn from history and look at what caused previous financial crashes and what might do so this time. For example, the current situation in 2025, leading in from 2024, we have rising default rates on mortgages, for one, because the Bank of England's Credit Conditions Survey for July to September 2024, the default rates rose in the 3 months to the end of September 24. And although it was a little bit less than some of the lenders had anticipated, it is a rise in those default rates nonetheless. And essentially what that means is whenever the banks are going to lose money, and defaults are typically going to cost the bank money because they have to do something about it, and very often they end up losing money on those situations, they are going to look to recover that money somewhere else. That might well lead to increase in rates elsewhere, stricter borrowing criteria, larger deposits required, and especially to get the lower rates, we are seeing that you need a much larger deposit to get those lower rates, which is going to narrow the field significantly, making it very much more difficult for someone to get a mortgage. I can speak to this because many years ago now, I was practicing as a mortgage advisor. I'm technically still qualified, though I don't practice in that anymore. And none of this is to be taken as financial advice now that I've said that. But in a very broad economic context via the arrears and general economy, one of the key drivers to an increase in defaults is the debt service ratio, where you have higher interest rates on monthly payments, but particularly for those that have had to remortgage from lower rates such as 3% or below to the new rates of well over 5% in many cases. So a lot of people those that are sensible have been looking to pay off mortgages and such when they've been at the lower rate of 3%, knowing that it's going to be 5-6%, even on a relatively low loan-to-value ratio, they would have had significantly higher payments. And on top of the higher monthly payments people might have because of the increase in the rate of their mortgage or such like, in addition to a lower increase in pay because of employer national insurance rises, or even losing their job because of the increase in employer national insurance prices, they might lose that job, lose their income entirely, and thus end up in a default situation with their mortgage. Or at the very least, they might enter a stage where they're going to have a higher repayment structure if they do come to an arrangement with the bank. Now, as I promised earlier in the video, there are steps you can take to save a lot of money in this regard. Now, none of this is to be taken as financial advice because it can't be, but if you are absolutely sensible about it in the UK, there are certain cards which will charge you a percentage to move and or consolidate money from a high interest paying card onto a 0% card for a number of months, they do usually charge you a fee. Very occasionally, you can find one that is free. For example, and this portion is in no way sponsored or affiliated whatsoever, and this is not advice, but just taking one as a pure example here. The first one that I came to, just to show you that these things are around, Virgin Money is offering a transfer service with 0% on balance transfers for 9 months with a 0% transfer fee. Although after it says the first 60 days, the balance transfer fee rises to 5%. And importantly, after the first 9 months, the interest rate then kicks in at 24.9%. It also entices you, though I don't recommend it if you're trying to get out of debt, it entices you with 0% interest on purchases for 3 months, but then 24.9% there afterwards. And the only time I would ever think that this is anything close to a sensible idea is if you are stuck in a very high interest rate card and you want a few months to get ahead of that whilst you've got 0% on it. These can be a way to do it. Now, I stress you have to absolutely stick to a rigid plan and have the mindset that you are going to get rid of debt. And with this one card, by way of example, you get 9 months to do that in. You may not get rid of all of it in 9 months, but you can certainly get rid of a chunk of it within 9 months. But then you have to weigh up, is the 24.9% higher than what you're paying now? Is it lower than what you're paying now? Is it realistic to pay it off within 9 months? Or where will you be in 9 months? Will you be able to transfer it to another card? And so on and so on. Now, again, this is not financial advice, but what I can do is encourage you to download my household budget spreadsheet. It's on blackbeltbarrister.com. You have to sign up. It's free to sign up an account on my website, but then you go to the downloads page and the spreadsheet is there. It's free. I wouldn't charge people for this spreadsheet because it's a spreadsheet that we've put together. We genuinely use every single day. Everything that we spend, everything in, everything out goes on this spreadsheet, and we know exactly where we are all the time. So you can put that into there, you can put your debts into there, then you can weigh up these options, and you really ought to take proper financial advice. But if you can't find that or you can't afford that, then you can obviously put things together yourself in this spreadsheet, look at these deals, put together a structured plan to get rid of this credit card debt and do it that way. If you absolutely cannot get rid of it in that way, or you just don't even qualify for the card or whatever, and you are in serious trouble, then there is something called a debt relief order. Now, this does have a dent on your credit report, but if you're looking to get rid of borrowing and you want to freeze the interest, this may be an option that you can look into. They do provide you advice on the National Debt Helpline. There is a strict set of rules that you must meet here. Obviously, unable to pay your debts, total debts of $50,000 or less at the date the application is approved, and so on. You can also look at breathing space, which is helpful for the individual and the bane of landlords' lives when they get a tenant who doesn't pay and they enter breathing space, then the landlord cannot take any action against them for money they're owed, even when they're owed thousands of pounds and so on. So this is a double-edged sword, but you can look at breathing space, which will stop most types of enforcement and also stop most creditors from applying interest and charges on those accounts for 60 days or even longer if it's on mental health grounds. So there are ways you can look at this. There are ways of getting out of debt. As I say, I don't recommend taking out credit cards at all, but if you are absolutely diligent with your plan and you put these together and you do structure payments over that period of time and you take out a card such as that one, which is 0% transfer, 0% for 9 months, and you budget that you can pay it off within 9 months, that's great. You've saved yourself however much interest on the balance that you've paid off in that time. And you really have to be aggressive and ruthless in where you cut spending. For example, cutting everything off that you absolutely don't need, even if that means selling a car so that you don't have the car payments and not going on holidays, not doing takeaways, not doing trips out, cancelling all your subscriptions, etc. I've had a sit down with people before now, and we've had a long discussion over how they can save money. And in each of those conversations, we've managed to find at least £300 or £400 that they can save every month by cutting certain things out. Even the latte factor, but whereby you buy coffee every day for £2 or £3 or £5 or whatever it is, and then you add those up over the month with lunches and everything else, and instead of buying them on the day, you plan in advance, and you can save this amount of money, hundreds of pounds a month that you can put against this debt and get rid of it. Those are the ways to do it, but as I say, the situation is looking pretty grim with borrowing rates both by the government and credit card rates. So I urge you, The time is now. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what's happening around the world right now. We just know that it's pretty grim. And if it gets any worse, these rates are going to go up even higher. The default rates are going to go higher, and then everything will collapse. So I would say take my advice. It's not financial advice. It's my guidance to you to sort this out. If you have a problem like that, download the spreadsheet, take a look in the mirror, and get it sorted. So I hope that's of some help to you. I hope it's of some relief to you in some sense, as well as pointing out the obvious. But thank you for watching. Leave me your thoughts and comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.